You're listening to the Quint's podcast.
In his resignation note for Test captain, Virat Kohli said that, quote unquote, I've always believed in giving my 120% in everything I do. And if I can't do that, I know it's the right thing to do. I have absolute clarity in my heart and I cannot be dishonest to my team. With no successor deemed fit to replace him, Kohli's sudden step down as captain leaves the men in blue in a lurch. While names like Rohit Sharma, KL Rahul, Rishabh Pant are in the headlines, no one seems to be the right fit. And with just over a month left for India to start the Sri Lanka series, the empty captaincy seat does put some serious questions on the BCCI's plate. So, with no clear successor in sight, was Kohli's decision premature? Should he have waited for longer and nurtured his replacement? And the big question, who will replace him? Will it be Rohit Sharma, who has already taken reins of the T20 and ODI formats, or someone young like KL Rahul? Joining me today to discuss the same is our regular guest and friend of the show, cricket analyst and commentator Chandresh Narayanan. You're tuned in to The Big Story, the podcast where we dissect the headline-making news for you, and I'm your host, Himmat. So let's dive headfirst into what may have led to Kohli's sudden decision to resign. Over the past year, there have been multiple signs. In September 2021, Kohli had announced that he would be leaving the T20I captaincy after the Men's T20 World Cup in the UAE. He had also stepped down as the captain of the Royal Challengers Bangalore. 2 months later, in December, Kohli was replaced by Rohit Sharma as the ODI captain. But as we know, that was a decision that he was not happy with, since keeping the ODI and Test captaincy was something he desired. And then we had the explosive press conference just a month ago before the South Africa tour, where Kohli made his displeasure about the decision known by openly contradicting what BCCI head Sourav Ganguly said over the T20I and ODI captaincy decisions. We did an entire episode dedicated to these two events, and if you have missed those episodes, you can find a link to them in our show notes. Getting back to the show. So was Kohli's decision predictable given that he was recently relinquished from the ODI captaincy? Or was it driven by the fact that he did not want to battle it out with the BCCI anymore after everything that has happened in the past few months? We took this question to cricket commentator and analyst Chandresh Narayanan, who believes that after the press conference, Kohli had painted himself into a corner and the only way out for him was to show results in the South Africa tour, which he was unable to do so.
If you recall, I written in my piece for the Quint when he was sacked as the ODI captain, that his time is up as a Test captain. Mm-hmm. Because if he had won the series, he probably would have had some kind of a bargaining chip. Once he lost the test series in South Africa, his bargaining chip was gone for good. So it didn't come as a surprise at all. Just the timing, I didn't expect it to come 24 hours later. I expected it to happen a lot later, as in like closer to the Sri Lanka series. Mm-hmm. So the fact that it's happened a month before the Sri Lanka series gives time for everybody to look at the successor that Indian cricket needs right now in Test match cricket. I think the fact that he had taken on the BCCI in an oblique way through that press conference before the South Africa tour meant that he had pushed himself into a corner. And there was no way he was going to be able to fight back against the BCCI after painting himself into a corner because of that press conference. He needed to back that with performances and a series win in South Africa. The fact that didn't happen meant that his bargaining chip was no longer with him, and I think he decided that it's better to jump before he's pushed. So I think there's a lesson in it for almost everybody in life that quit when you're asked why rather than why not.
Other commentators like former Indian captain Sunil Gavaskar noted that Kohli's decision to step down as captain of the Test team could stem from the possibility that he might get sacked for a second time. But as I stated earlier, the decision came as a shock to many. Tributes and support from cricket legends poured in for the former captain. While Ravi Shastri noted that quote-unquote only a few have achieved what Kohli could, Sir Vivian Richards said that his quote-unquote name will be up there among the best leaders in world cricket. From his first test as captain standing in for an injured Dhoni in Adelaide in 2014, Kohli's performance and tenure as captain showed that he was cut from a different cloth. And the numbers and records speak for themselves. With a win percentage of 58.8%, Virat Kohli ranks 4th in most wins in Test cricket as a captain. And a look at his Test captaincy record shows that Kohli never lost a Test series at home and has a 77.4% win rate for home matches. And Kohli's success as a Test captain brings us to the big question: who can replace him? Names like Rohit Sharma, Ajinkya Rahane, KL Rahul have come up, but none, according to Chandesh Narayanan, fit the bill. He weighs in on the options BCCI has and what the logical options are for Team India with just a month to go for Sri Lanka.
I think the biggest failing of the Virat Kohli era in Test match cricket has been the fact that he didn't clearly create a second in line or didn't have a succession plan in Test match cricket. The plan that he had, and this is something that Indian cricket needs to look at very clearly, is that he had someone who's of his own age group, like Ajinkya Rahane. So the second in line in all three formats are people who are from the similar age group. In one day and T20, it's okay. Rohit has just slipped into that role and will probably make a good fist of it when he takes over full time. In Test match cricket, they had believed that Ajinkya Rahane would be the best choice to take over. But unfortunately, Ajinkya Rahane has fallen off the cliffs with his form. This time last year, Ajinkya Rahane had the world at his feet. But unfortunately, because of a series of poor scores, he's on the brink of being dropped from the Test team. The next could have been someone like, say, Cheteshwar Pujara. But unfortunately, Cheteshwar Pujara is also on the brink of being dropped from the Test team. So what has happened now is that there was no clear second in line. And now if you look at the Test 11, for example, or Test squad, for example, there's a clear hole because Virat has taken himself out of the equation. Ajinkya and Cheteshwar are out of the picture. Rohit Sharma is constantly injured and does not play regularly. What are your options? Mayank Agarwal obviously is not an option because he himself is unsure of his place. You look at Gavaskar has floated the name of Rishabh Pant. Now that's a left field choice. Now, do you really want to burden someone like a Rishabh Pant at the age of 24 when he is prone to be irresponsible while keeping or while batting? So that's a call that the selectors need to make. KL Rahul is another option, but 6 months ago, KL Rahul was not even sure of a place in this Test lineup. So do you really want to go to someone like a KL Rahul in Test match cricket? That's a call that the selectors and the team management, especially head coach Rahul Dravid, needs to make. And the other big problem is that, say, Jasprit Bumrah and Ravichandran Ashwin. Jasprit Bumrah has come out and said that he's open to the idea of being the Test captain. Now, the thing is, in the last 4 years, he's played one or two Test matches only at home, while he has played majority of his Test cricket only away from home. And Ravichandran Ashwin is not sure of a place away from home. So you have one bowler who's like the best option for you at home, and the other bowler who is the best option away from home. You can't really have two captains in that sense, that you have one captain at home and one captain away from home. The Aussies used to do that in the early 80s with Kim Hughes and Greg Chappell. India can't afford to do that, to have two captains for Test cricket, one at home and one away from home. So these are some of the questions that the selectors and the think tank need to answer. I think currently, logically speaking, Rohit Sharma is the next logical option to take over as a Test captain, with KL Rahul likely to be his vice captain. Now, with Rohit Sharma as the Test captain, does he want burden of all three formats, considering that there are two World Cups coming up this year and next year? So in India, we are always judged by a performance in the white ball format. So these are some of the questions that should trouble the selectors and the think tank. And if I was to be critical about Virat Kohli, I would have expected him to finish this particular cycle of Test match cricket, that is next year's World Test Championship final, if India makes it. If they don't, then he could have logically stepped down at the end of the Australia series early next year and said it's time for the next round of World Test Championship to be played under a new captain. What this has done is that your Indian Test lineup is anyways in a state of flux. Now it's in a state of chaos. And it is likely to be in that state for the next couple of years, because most of the cricket is going to be at home or home-like conditions, except one Test match in England. There's also talk of some 2 Test matches being added in West Indies. Now, the thing is that even in West Indies, if they do play, it will be in home-like conditions. So you are going to get into a false sense of complacency the next time you're supposed to travel abroad or go on a round of all the SENA countries of South Africa, England, New Zealand, Australia, that's when you're going to be tested. And that's not going to happen for 2+ more years. So you still have time to test the new test captain. In a way, it is good that the new captain gets time to settle down in his role. But will we get into a false sense of complacency? That remains to be seen.
Another person who could be in the mix is fast bowler Jasprit Bumrah, who said that it would be an honour to captain the Indian team when he was approached with a question. Speaking to reporters on 17 January, he said, quote, "For me, I'm ready to contribute in whichever manner I can, be it in the post or otherwise. If given the opportunity, it's an honour, but if not, I will try to do whatever is required to the best of my ability. My focus is to do well." End quote. So what if India were to adopt something like what the Aussies have done with Pat Cummins and appoint Bumrah as captain? Chandrasekhar Narayanan weighs in.
The thing with Jasprit is that he hasn't played more than 1 or 2 test matches at home in the last 4 years. So all his test match cricket has been away from home. Whenever there's been a test match at home, he's either injured or he's being rested. So if a person isn't playing test cricket at home, okay, when he becomes the test captain, he might probably want to play all test match cricket that's played at home. Wouldn't you want to rest your premier fast bowler if he's not going to be used at all? So like in India, after a few overs, you're going to employ the spin bowlers. So what's the role of Bumrah in that sense in test match cricket at home? He's your premier fast bowler, premier bowler, and the go-to bowler when you play test match cricket away from home. But at home, and I'm not anti-bowler at all. I'm not against making a bowler as a captain. I'm just talking logically. The same goes for Ashwin. Ashwin is ineffective or is not played away from home. As we saw in England, he didn't play the entire test series. In South Africa, he was ineffective. Would you want to play somebody who's your best option at home, but away from home is not your best option? So again, you're left with a problem over there. So I think in that sense, the bowlers get knocked off the pedestal because of that particular problem. And I mentioned this quite often, that the problem with India right now, and it's a good thing also in a way, that you have 2 test teams. One that plays at home, one that plays away from home. Half the guys who played in South Africa last week in the test match won't feature in the test match next month against Sri Lanka. For example, Shardul Thakur, Jasprit Bumrah, Mayank Agarwal, and a couple of others here and there. So you virtually have 2 test teams in that sense. So you need to make a call on who is that guy who features at home and away. And those are only 2 guys right now, and they are Virat Kohli and Rishabh Pant. Because Cheshwar and Ajinkya have themselves got themselves out of the equation with their poor performances with the bat. You're left with only 2 guys, Virat Kohli and Rishabh Pant in that sense. And so I think the selectors have an interesting time ahead deciding on who's going to be the next test captain, because there are lots of things to think about. But the problem is, in Indian cricket, we don't think long term. Because the selectors don't have long-term contracts. Their contracts usually used to be 2 years, but it's gone back to being an annual contract. So the selectors are like duty bound to only think as long as they are the contract is. So that's about June, July, or even earlier than that. The main man in this whole scenario for me is now the head coach, Rahul Dravid. He becomes the most important man in this, because an unsure new captain who may or may not be sure of his own place at times, then his at the beck and call of the coach, the head coach, because the head coach becomes the most powerful man in Indian cricket, which is a change from last 7 years when the captain ran the show.
The BCCI clearly has an interesting decision on its hands in the coming weeks, with a new vision and new voice in the form of a new test captain. The men in blue next play a test match starting 24th February against Sri Lanka. Stay tuned to the Quint and the Big Story for the latest on the story. If you liked listening to this episode, please subscribe to the Big Story for episodic updates. We're available on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, JioSaavn, and most of the other popular podcast streaming platforms. For other podcasts, please log on to the Quint website, and for any feedback, please shoot an email to podcast@thequint.com.
Thanks for listening. Log on to the Quint website and check out our other podcasts.